Tosses, you don't throw it out.
Solid. Oh my, what a...
Call me a giant or call me a 49er. Call me a warrior, cause I follow a code of honor.
Alrighty, what is up, guys? This is your boy FightNightsFinest, the sofa commentator, bringing you guys something a little different. Now, everybody's been wondering and looking around saying, oh, you know, PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One, you know, this isn't a video like that. I don't care about that. For the UFC guys, I want to congratulate you guys on getting yourself a new game. UFC, the next UFC was announced. And I'm happy for all the UFC commentators, all the UFC players, because you guys honestly deserve it. THQ did you no justice with Undisputed 3. They never really done you any justice too well on any of the UFC games created, where it's like everything's just glitched out, laggy, no support. And it's just a tragedy what went down with the UFC Undisputed 3. It looked like great graphics, but gameplay-wise, it obviously didn't follow suit, especially online. And I don't even think you guys got support for the game, not once. So you guys well deserve your next game that's coming out. But I want to talk a little bit about Fight Night, the next installment. It's been a topic that's been brought up sometimes on my channel with the series changes for the next Fight Night. You see me done a few interviews or talked about it a few times, but I never really dug into the matter of why it never comes out or why it hasn't come out yet. And a lot of people say, oh, the next Fight Night is supposed to be coming out every 2 years. Well, to be honest, the way the Fight Night series works is it's picked up when it's wanted to be picked up on, when it's wanted to be worked on, when EA feels it's time for it to come out, it just comes out. And I know you guys are like, no, it's every 2 years. Well, I did a little research. As you see on the screen here, there's a picture I got off of Wikipedia, and it shows the different release years of when the next Fight Night installment came out. So it started back in 2004, which was a steady track to round 2, which is 2005. And then the best, in my opinion alone, Fight Night round 3 is the best installment that did come out for it. So it was a every year thing where the game came out 1 year after the next, But I can understand the gap between round 3 to round 4 with, you know, the new consoles coming out. But round 3 was, like I said, was the best installment, and it was a game that a lot of people was playing, casual to boxing fans. A lot of people was playing to it, and it was really almost the perfect boxing game. Very little things that needed to be fixed besides, you know, the perfect block, and you know, you go to slap a dude's hand away, and then you take almost 30 years just to get your hands back to your face. So that was like one of the broken aspects of the game. And, you know, it wasn't for an online really ready system to do updates and stuff that we got with the next gen consoles at that time, which would be Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. You know, you couldn't really do much support wise for round 3. It was pretty much whatever game you put out there, that's the final product. That's what's tested. That's what's put out to the consumers, and then you live with the results of that. And I think a lot of us take advantage of that where, oh, do we need an update for the game? We need an update for the game. And even the way game publishers and game makers go about making games nowadays is the final products don't have to be crisp and perfected. It can be updated and then fixed based on how we feel as consumers, or just based on how online play goes, since multiplayer has become such a big part of today's gaming societies. So, you know, final products that are tested aren't, you know, where they could be. You know, they have that liberty to screw up a few times and get it right, even though it costs them money to do the updates and stuff. Now, when we went from round 3, which, like I said, was a very enjoyable game, to round 4, that's a 3-year gap. I didn't buy round 4. I didn't play round 4, but, you know, looking at gameplay and stuff compared to how Champion round 3 looks like it took a downturn, but it did take an upgrade in terms of its boxer list, where it had a lot of great boxers, as you can see on the screen there. Pretty much, I think it was the best roster out of every Fight Night that's come out. Even Champion Champion's roster, in my opinion, isn't as big as it seems. Most of it is just fictional characters that's taken from the story mode and just slapped into the game. And then you can't compete based on how the physics and engine works of Fight Night Champion with lower rated characters. You can't really compete unless against the overpowered characters, against the Tysons, against the Robinsons, against the Bishops. You can't compete with them too well with low ranked characters without being extremely precise and knowing exactly how the game works. And it's even hard then to do it, which is why you even see the best players always playing with the best characters. You know, there's something desirable in strength, and nobody likes to use weak characters. That's just with anything. But round champion doesn't even give you the chance to defend yourself correctly. It's like I said, the game is not completely put in the skill-based hands of the players all the time. Now, controlling outcome is different from how a fight goes down when there's an even playing field, where you're both fighting sim-like styles. That's different. But in the way round 4 worked with the up and down blocking system, the punch system, you obviously have control of how you defend and how you throw at your opponent. Champions the auto block, so it's like if you got that Philly shell pump block or the southpaw cross block pump block, you're basically set. But you can't really use textbook all that well neither. So you know, the game, like I said, it has that AI assistance that is not needed in one-on-one skill-based games in order to compete on that kind of level. But back to the topic at hand. So the game really just comes up whenever it's just felt like. It's picked up literally based on when the developers feel like. They went from a consistent cycle from the first 3 installments down, like I said, round 3 was the best, down to round 4, which took 3 years to come out with the next gen console Switch. And then you got Champion, which was a launch, I believe round 4 was the launch title for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And then 2 years later, Fight Night Champion comes out. And Fight Night Champion is, in my opinion, it's a good game. It could be definitely better, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't, the way they went about creating it doesn't go to the correct audience. They put it towards casual gamers, which is why you have the problems that we all have online with the spammers, the sidestep uppercut spammers, the backstep straight spammers, the pretend Muhammad Ali's and pretend Floyd Mayweather's, the runners, the consistent problems that you constantly get, the OP characters, you know, the sim boxers, especially if the game was made towards people who enjoy and respect the game of boxing and also respect the fact of how to play a game correctly, instead of a casual player where you could just put anything in their hands and they're going to do whatever it takes to be effective, which is why the game looks the way it is now. You know, that's why we have those type of problems with Champion. So Champion, not that it's not a good game, it just targeted the wrong audience. And the big question is, when is the next Fight Night going to come out? And the correct answer to that is whenever EA feels like it. You got to look at it this way. UFC is being made by the same producers for round 4 and Champion. It's being made, the head of fighting games at EA is the same person. So any fighting game license that EA has is made by this guy Ken something. I didn't catch his name. I'll probably leave a link in the description where you see an annotation or written something down on the screen with the guy's name on it. But he's the head of that. So he's focusing on the UFC. Is being focused on the whole fighting division at EA is focused on UFC right now. There's not going to be any news of Champion at E3. I mean, of the next Fight Night at E3. So anybody who's expecting that, just get out your head. It probably will come either late 2014, possibly even 2015. I mean, because after they got to give the support to UFC, see how that goes, see how it works. And then Champion will get catered to, the next Fight Night will be catered to then. So it's probably going to be another 3-year cycle between 2000, round 3 to round 4, with 2006 to 2009. And Champion will probably be 2014 or early 2015. So you're possibly looking at from the release day of March 1st to possibly even a 4-year cycle. And then the honest truth about Fight Night is that it doesn't need a yearly cycle to constantly come out. The problem with Champion just being left here, though, which is the difference between round 3 and Champion, is that round 3 was damn near perfect versus Champion, which has a lot of problems, targeted to the wrong audience. The wrong people are playing it. That's why you're not really hearing the complaints too much from boxing fans, because they don't even play the game anymore. It's really just the casual gamer just running that whole show. Like, look at all the belt glitches. There's no way in the world a sim like person or a guy who respects boxing will flag glitch their way through up to the leaderboards and just stay there and freeze themselves so that they can't lose their belts. No sim like person will have that kind of mindset, because honestly, I haven't held the belts for too long because I have lost them pretty quickly. But at the same time, I want to hold on to it by some cheating way. If you know what I mean. It would be more done like I'm just trying to hold on to it as long as I can by winning the best possible way. Playing the game fairly, which is also a reason why so many people left the game already, is that OWC, there's nothing to strive for anymore. Nobody really cares. The way the records go, people bum hunt at the bottom all day. 79 overall or 78 with the to the max, where it's 1 point. If you put 1 point on your boxer, you go straight to 79, and then they bum hunt at the bottom all day with the straight at the most powerful as it could possibly be and just spam it versus everybody else. And like I said, people are running. It's all that nonsense running around in the game. So this Champion, if anything, should have had a follow-up about 2013, which is this year, or 2012 even, because of all the problems that Champion had created. And I'm going to tell them how to do it the correct way, of which audience they should have targeted, and how to make this game last for about 5 to 6 years before you even think about incorporating another game once it hits next gen console. Because that can be, honestly, Fight Night can be a game that lasts on one generation's console throughout its entire life cycle, from the beginning to the next one is announced. And what I mean by that is, take, for example, we have PlayStation 4. The game can be set up to the point where all you do is add DLC to it, and then you just play the game throughout its entire cycle. The game can definitely be perfectly made without question, because round 3 almost did it. If you take some elements like the graphics and somewhat of the engine from Fight Night Champion, and you put that together with everything round 3 has, it's damn near the perfect boxing game. Like, there's no way you can screw it up. You take away the auto block, you get rid of that. That puts the skill defensively back into players' hands and to prevent spamming from happening altogether. This is basically the main problem on the game, is the ability that you have to rely on the AI and how your boxer is customized for you to block. Once you put the skills back into the player's hand, the game just changes online completely. You take out the glitches in the system with the flag glitches cheating their way up the leaderboard. And anybody who's doing that, you know who you are, and you shouldn't be doing it. I might even take a few screenshots of the online leaderboard, as you might see on the screen now, of people, of how it just looks. Whereas from the top 100 all the way to number 1 has like a ridiculous amount of points that they didn't earn with boxer level crazy on OWC. And then you just see all these fake belts. If you look at the way it is, you have the North American belt, you have the Asia or European belt, US, Japan, Canadian, French, British, and the world belt. I think there's an Australian belt, not too sure about that. But you have around 9 to 10 belts that should be possibly on the leaderboard, unless if the person's not in the top 100. On the leaderboard, you see probably 30 to 40, possibly even more than that. I didn't do an exact count. So that's an issue, and it doesn't give players anything to strive for. Now, to make the game perfect, and I said that I said this over thousands of times on my changes for the next Fight Night series. The game can be made perfect based on how you fix the game modes. And DLC is something that everybody's buying now. Online passes and all that crap. I don't believe in online passes, but you can definitely add DLC with paying for boxers, paying for fights and stuff that went down. Like when I mean that, they need to bring back the classic or create a classic fight scenario where you bring all the greatest fights of all time that ever went down, and then you add onto it. And that's something that can be added on yearly with fights that go down year after year after year, like Pacquiao and Marquez. 1 through 4 was just, well, I think it was 1 through 3, 1 through 4. Just great fights that just went down between these guys. And then you can add that into DLC. You can add just fights that took in place, and then play that will leave trophy hunters and achievement hunters something to strive for. It will give the casual gamer something to strive for, trying to make the achievement or achieve the same exact punch stats. It's almost like how they did it with Madden and I believe Connected Careers, where you play through the season, you try to match the exact stats that go down with your team throughout the 17-week period. So that can definitely be done with Fight Night, with classic and great time fights that go down, whether it's on Friday Night Fights, Showtime Boxing, HBO, pay-per-view fights, any type of fight of the year, you put that into classic fight mode. And there's something that can be added onto year after year. There's tons of boxers. As you, I don't believe I mentioned this with the rosters yet, but the rosters, the way they're set up is they gotten better year after year after year till they got the champion, and it kind of took a step back from how round 4 had a way better roster than champion, and champion just added a lot of fictional characters to it, but round 4 had a lot of boxers and definitely can add more boxers to it, and you can make these guys DLC, downloadable content for purchase. You know, you can add the young George Foremans, you can add the Ernie Shavers, you can add the Henry Armstrongs. There's so many fighters you can put under DLC, and then some of the guys that are coming up, you can put them as 99 cents, cheap DLCs that can be brought. For example, my boy Sean Porter, you can put him as a 99-cent DLC character if you know, however they go about getting the people permission or paying them or whatever to put them into the game. You put them into the game that way by just adding them to DLC, and you can do that year after year after year after year. So DLC and boxes will always be fresh. Nobody's just using the same boxes over and over again. And like I said earlier, when you put the skills back into the player's hands with the defensive capabilities that actually have to be done by the person, it allows them to use lower rated characters. For example, if I use Emmanuel Augustus against Manny Pacquiao, it's going to be really hard for me to beat Pacquiao. But if the defensive capabilities was in my hand, it will give players that are better at the game, better defensively, a chance to actually block incoming punches without worrying about the AI messing up or taking a good shot on the chin, because then it's your fault. So the skill goes back into the player's hands with how defensive capabilities being put back into their hands. Also, it wouldn't matter how great your punch accuracy is. So you can take away that chart where it's like, oh, straight +1 accuracy, +2 power. That can be taken out of the game right there. Boxer customization can be done a lot better. There's so many things that can be done in the game that will allow it to last forever. Then, in order to keep the game fresh year after year after year, you do what the Madden Challenge does, but only for Fight Night this time. You make a cash prize, and you do it through Virgin Gaming, where you do tournament fights that you need to do in order to qualify, in order to, let's go to, for example, Madison Square Garden in New York, and you fight, everybody fights there in order to achieve the $250,000 grand prize. On Virgin Gaming, you make the game suited towards money, because that's the way boxing works. You hear about, oh, people always concerned about how much is the fight worth. Let's say, for example, let's say Floyd's fighting Robert Guerrero. I didn't get the exact numbers on how that worked, but let's say it's like a 60-40 split, which of course it wasn't. But let's say Floyd got like 40 mil and Guerrero got whatever. Let's say the fight's 40 million and 100 million. 60 million goes to Floyd, 40 million goes to Guerrero. That's a 60-40 split. And in boxing, people really care about that kind of thing. You should put it to the point where it's almost like a betting system added to the game. If you can go into the game and fight for money and fight against other players with a spectator mode and casting mode and tournament mode, that should allow players among themselves, or just make some type of system where you can bet on fights that go down, and people's friends will bet on each other. That kind of thing will keep the game interesting. It will keep the game motivated. Money keeps everything motivated. It's just some people's life, everybody's life has to revolve somewhere around money. And making the fight scenes with the tournaments, the small tournaments, you could pick like $5,000 tournaments a week or every 2 weeks, or 10,000, something just to keep the game fresh. Year after year after year will keep the game feeling like, okay, this is still new. This is still something I haven't done. This makes the game competitive. This not only brings out casual players to come try out, trying to get better at the game, it also brings MLG, so to speak, pro players to go out there and try to fight their best in order to win money. It keeps the game fresh no matter what. Spectator mode allows people to watch different fighters go at it. Casting will allow just a tournament scene to develop on its own. So this game, like I said, doesn't need to come out year after year after year. If you make customization right for boxers the first time, the punching styles, make a wide variety, and then add on to that DLC wise, you can make the game so much better than what it is now without ever having to add a new installment until you get to the next generation consoles. So like I said, this game has potential to last through an entire console's life cycle. But that's my thoughts on when the next Fight Night is going to come out. Another changes for the next Fight Night, who the target of the audience should be, and why it's not getting the attention it deserves. And us as a community can force them if we act together. We hit like buttons on people's videos. We make videos. We leave it in the forums. If we constantly press them about it, at the end of the day, they're going to sit down and they're going to say, okay, we need to start catering to this group because they are hungry for something new. But if we sit back with our hands in our pockets and act like nothing's going around and just constantly complain to nobody, complain to thin air, it's never going to get done. If you look at Call of Duty, they got that bonus mode arm race into the game by constant hammering, constant videos being made, constant commentaries made, constant complaints on forums, constant harassing developers on Twitter. It can be done, but we have to band together and make a move onto it. But this is your boy FightNightsFinest, the Sofa Commentator, signing off.